It's if you were to die and you're allowed to go back to Earth for 5 to 10 minutes, what would you do? And the guy specifically said, you can't see friends and family because you're meant to be dead, and that would scare the shit out of them. So,
if I was to die, come back, can't see friends or family. Man, that's deep. I wasn't ready for that. I'd want to do something good that I didn't do while I was here that I probably regretted once I was not here anymore. You know what I mean? Versus but I can't see friends or family, so I can't go back to somebody and make amends, which I try not to have any grudges anyway. But I don't know. I think I'd like to do something good and help some people out in some way, be it some charity form or something, or go to some animal shelter that's being mistreated and let all the dogs run free. You're free to go.
That's a good answer. Yeah, it's a tricky because the obvious one is see family and friends, isn't it? So I guess taking away that obvious, I don't even know what my answer would be. Help an old lady cross the road or something. I don't know.
There you go. There you go.
What would
as long as it's something good, you know?
Yeah. Try and stop a robbery or something. I don't know how you predict that.
Yeah.
I guess maybe you can get some special powers to see that stuff. I don't know.
Right.
I noticed from your looking at your Instagram and stuff that you have your own. Is it your own sort of? You're co-founder of a charity sort of foundation. Is that right?
Yeah, my wife and I started it in 2019. It's called the Henry and Clark Foundation, named after two of our beagles. We didn't have Sonny at the time, but we like to help out a lot of animals when we can, and then people that might be in need, less fortunate, or some kids that around holidays that need extra help. So it's something good. We just kind of felt like we were called to do it, and it's been a passion project for sure. It's something fun.
Because the reason I was interested to ask about it is that obviously having started your own kind of project in that sense, obviously there are plenty of people out there that may have just gone and found a charity and given the money, or something like that.
Right.
And also with your clothing company as well, I get the impression you've got a bit of a business itch, or something about creating your own thing, be it a brand or a charity or music, Right. Do you think that's something that ties in with your personality, this desire to make things happen yourself? Is that something that you think ties in with you in particular? Because like I said, there are plenty of people who, just don't start any kind of businesses in their life, and which is obviously fine. I haven't got one. And again, plenty of people would have just given the money to charity, but actually you've chosen to go and put the work in and kind of make your own thing of it.
And first, when I'm talking, I feel like I'm not looking at you. I don't want to come off rude.
Oh, it's fine. I'm kind of half looking over that way anyway. So
let me flip this around. I feel.
There you go.
Okay, now I'm looking.
Sorry,
I'm more looking more.
I'm doing this as well, so
gotcha.
Yeah, we're all good.
We started the clothing company during the pandemic. Again, it was another passion project, something that I've wanted to do for a while, because I like designing stuff, and then I like seeing that come to life, So when we realized we couldn't go on the road, during the pandemic, that was the time to give myself something, to do creatively, to scratch that itch, because, we couldn't go out and tour, and we had just finished recording an album. 1 second. I'm so sorry.
That's good. Like the animal distractions.
Crazy morning.
That's all good. It's evening for me, so
yeah.
It's
no, we started that company. It was something to do. It was like another outlet for me to be creative, and it was a lot of fun. And then it's turned into something that, honestly, it takes up a whole lot of time, really, because we're always thinking about what to put out next. What's the next design? What are we going to do? But I love it. It's a fun challenge, and I am one of those people that welcomes probably unneeded stress. I don't know why I do it to myself, but I'm not the kind of guy that can just sit and not do anything, So even when in a busy year for the band, even when we're home or even on the road, I always like to have my mind stimulated to do something else, and it's rewarding when you see it pay off, and even in small ways, it's really rewarding.
Yeah. I feel like keeping yourself busy is, especially, I think that's something everyone kind of learned from pandemic times, and that is when suddenly you've got nothing to do. If you're at work and then you can't some people literally couldn't work, it's to try and fill that time, especially a lot of musicians. It's like, kind of shows you the importance of having those pursuits, I guess,
Sure.
having that thing you're passionate about in life. But how do you, now that you've obviously got this going and we're back into like, you guys are touring loads and playing loads of shows, how do you kind of balance your time so that you can give everything in your life? And I don't just mean business, I mean like family life, friends, whatever. How do you balance your time so that how do you figure out how you're going to allocate your time so that you get everything done that you want to in a day?
That's the stressful part. And honestly, my wife is also involved too. So she loves it. It's not like it's something that I do and, she's like, hey, why aren't we spending more time together? It's something fun for us both to kind of be involved with, the charity and the clothing line. But it is when it comes into a big challenge is we're on the road a lot and, there's orders that need to go out or something like that. Cause we do it all in house. It's like a mom and pop shop, So we do all the fulfillment and the shipping and all that kind of stuff. Sometimes I can get a little crazy, a little hectic, just trying to balance it off. I'm gone for a long time, but luckily we have a lot of friends and family here that also pitch in and help out when they need to. So I'm very fortunate for that.
Yeah. No, it's a really cool, like, I saw you shared something a couple of days ago about it being sort of chased down by, I can't remember if you named who it was, but a certain company that was not happy with you. I couldn't remember exactly, but not happy with something to do with your branding. Yeah,
so the name is, the Surf Monster is the brand name. And there's a certain beverage out there that a highly caffeinated energy beverage that doesn't like us using that name because it's part of their name. And which is totally ridiculous.
I figured it out now.
yeah, it's totally ridiculous. So we're actually we're rebranding this year. That's what we're working on right now. Rebranding, and it's something I'm looking at it as a godsend. At first, it was very, very frustrating because it's like, wait, this is our name, and it has nothing to do with energy drinks. We're selling T-shirts and hats and stuff.
Yeah.
But we're going to look at it as a silver lining. Hey, so sorry.
It's okay.
So sorry. I'm just going to move rooms actually because I don't want to ruin your podcast.
No, that's all good, man. I'm enjoying the. What were the names again?
Henry, Clark, and Sonny are the names.
And which loudest to quietest? Which is which?
Clark is the loudest. He has the loudest bark ever. And what he's barking at is him and Sonny, the puppy. They love to play together. Yeah. So that's what's happening right now.
Man, I love this room. This is really cool.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
I don't even know what else. Oh, yeah. So we're in the process of rebranding. And it's going to be a good thing because we can actually expand and do some different designs that we wouldn't be able to under when we had Surf Monster. So we're keeping the same vibe, but we're just going to expand. So, yeah, big companies, they want to be bullies sometimes.
Yeah. So when you get those kind of challenges, and I mean, I guess you can bring this back to the band as well. Like, again, you could reference the pandemic, but like bands have their challenges, throughout their careers, especially any band that's around for as long as you guys have been. When stuff like that comes along, when some massive company comes and tries to tell you off basically, or like, when you have things like the pandemic or stuff like that, these sort of setbacks, do you feel like you're good at pushing through them, or do you find that you sometimes just get stuck and it's like, oh, why me, or are you good at like, I guess, persevering through those kind of times?
I think there's definitely the initial moment of going, why us, why we, why is this happening? But then I immediately go into damage control and go, okay, well, what do we do? We're not going to stop. We have to move on. We have to keep going. So after that little bit of frustration and not selfishness, but just like, the poor, pitiful me kind of goes away. You go, okay, let's regroup. Let's figure out how to fix this, and we tried to fight it. Then we realized that was an uphill losing battle. And we said, okay, let's think positive and let's see how we can make something good turn out of this. And that's kind of what we've done with this company. And we have to do the same thing when it comes to the band, because there's always, in the music business, there's always struggles and different frustrations and things. And then if you just linger on that too long, you start to lose, the passion starts to go away and you just get, upset about it. And then, so our thing has always been trying to persevere and push through and just come out the other side of it.
Yeah. And do you find that kind of some of the negative things like that, do you find they sort of help your creativity? Like, does it give you some like energy to bounce off of when you're writing sort of, if you're sitting down with your guitar? Like, do you, those kind of things that might make you angry or upset or frustrated, do they help you in that process, or do you find you prefer having a nice clear mind? Like for me, if I'm trying to write like heavy metal songs, if it's a nice sunny day, I'm happy. Like it's, you think, right. Especially I'm in Birmingham, UK, like the rain is, it's rain and grey like most of the time. And I hate that. I need, even if I'm writing this horrible, nasty riff, right. If it's a nice sunny day out, that's when you're going to get the best like riffs out of me personally.
Yeah. Sometimes, I think the environment has a lot to do with the inspiration of what, you're producing, you know what I mean? Certain days it's just gloomy, you just don't feel inspired, you know what I mean? You're just like, I'm not in it, and like you said, when you get a beautiful day, you feel energized and recharged, and same thing can be said, for writing music, whatever situation may be, it kind of reflects what the song that we're writing at that time is going to be, Then again, we've had some beautiful days, and we've written some pretty bone-crushing riffs before. So you just never know, I guess, whatever's going to come out is going to come out,
Yeah. What's the, sort of spinning it onto some of the new stuff that you got coming out, what's the, what would you say is I guess like a summary of what the new songs are, maybe a reflection of what kind of place that you guys are in? Are these new tracks a reflection of?
I think it talks. The album itself is pretty deep. Lyrically, and it's very heavy. It's very riff rock, and but I think a lot of it talks about things that we went through. Nobody wants to hear about the pandemic anymore. I sure as hell don't. And it's like, so we didn't write like pandemic songs, but there might have been songs that lyrically talked about maybe places mentally we would have been, or changes that we've gone through. But I think with this album especially, it just talks about more about personal. Each album talks about personal things. We never want to write songs that are just totally made up, because then we're not singing what we believe, But I think with the band is a growth, and you get new energy, and you just have different things to talk about. Be it our singer Chris lost his father over the last couple of years, so there's talks about that, about losing someone and trying to overcome and coming to terms with that, learning to live with that. And then songs about personal reflection, about or others' view on you. And like the new single Out of Pocket kind of talks about that, about feeling like if you're the problem, if somebody else is the problem, maybe sometimes it's good to also take a look in the mirror and go, well, wait a second, is it me? I need to do some self-reflecting too. Not everybody else is the issue here, So there's different things like that.
Yeah. When you guys, obviously, if you're talking about particularly deeper, like sometimes more challenging sort of themes, what happens does there have to be a consensus where you all feel like you sort of relate to that? Or, if someone feels something really strongly, are you guys happy to kind of hop on board with that? Like things like lyrical themes.
Yeah.
Do you guys, if someone sat there thinking, I really just don't like feel this, do you guys work around that and find like some sort of, do you basically, I guess the question is, when you come to if someone writes lyrics that don't really resonate with everyone, do they stay, or do you tend to change them around?
I think mostly we always like to agree on the lyrics, we always have, we all write together, but we also, even though somebody might not, if one person comes in with a song, a lot of lyrics that are personal to that one person, one might think, well, the other guys can't relate to that. But we're so close that even though we didn't go through it ourselves, we went through it with the bandmates. So we feel what that person, is trying to get out lyrically. You know what I mean? So we understand. So yeah, with stuff like that, we always try to be on the same page, and of course, we're not going to write. I'm not going to come in with some song that talks about something crazy that wouldn't be a Blackstone Cherry song, or I would know the other guys wouldn't even be on board with. You know what I mean? But luckily for us, we're so close that we live together all the, when we're on tour, and we see each other when we're off tour. We go through life together. So if it's a personal thing, even though I might not have experienced it personally, I still have experienced it with a friend,
Yeah, I guess that sort of, when you know the person that's going through that, it just makes it that much more kind of, I guess it is kind of personal if you know them, isn't it? Yeah. What kind of,
right.
What sort of lyrics or particular parts of songs have you sort of related to most in your own sort of life?
There's a new song. Well, a lot of the new stuff is really good. I mean, you're talking about new or old?
Either or, we go both.
Okay. Peace is Free is a great song. That's just a great lyrical song that we always can relate to, just because we always love the idea of peace is free if people want it, all you gotta do is just be nice. It's really simple. And then another song called All I'm Dreaming Of, which is a really beautiful song that we had on our third album. I just love listening to that because it's just kind of like a dream song, really, and about everything being a better place and a better time and better humans. So I relate to that because that's I think everyone's goal for humanity. And then there's songs that talk about more personal stuff. Like especially on the new album, which there's one song called "Look at the Mess You Made," which is really, really cool. I think anybody can relate to that song once they do hear it. Anyone that's kind of done somebody wrong, or if you've done them wrong, you can relate to it on both sides. So that's a really cool one. And there's just a bunch, really. Then you got the fun ones like Mary Jane and White Trash Millionaire. They're just fun songs that really don't have any deep rooting. It's just a fun song, So we try to keep that healthy balance between not being too serious all the time and not too just party song,
Yeah. I can definitely feel there's like a balance there and that kind of stuff. And you can I feel like sometimes you can get just as much, if not more, out of, a song with loads of like nasty riffs and not so much like super deep stuff behind it, but just something that if it really resonates with you, like the mood of what you're putting together. This goes for any band, really.
Right.
I feel like that can serve just as much as a song that really hits home on the lyrical front. But yeah, I mean, so like I saw something. I was just flicking through some I guess just like articles and stuff that I'd seen of yours, and I saw one where it's like you gave your sort of top 10 tips for, I think it's for guitarists specifically. Hey, dogs make
it. Yeah.
Anyone listening is missing out because that's one of the cutest dogs. So, that might be the cutest dog I've had on the podcast.
I love it. She's a good girl.
Yeah. But so what I was going to say was I saw you kind of gave 10 tips based off of what your kind of experience of playing, but I was going to ask what sort of do you think maybe, so I think when I look at the article, I think it was something like 2016, so it's quite some time ago. So what kind of tips would you give, I guess, I don't know how well you remember this list, but I'm sure you can maybe think of some of the things you might have said, but what kind of tips would you maybe give to musicians now as part one of the question, I guess, but part two, what would be some tips that you would give to yourself back in 2016, what was it, 5, 6, how long was that? 7 years. Oh, yeah. 7 years ago. That's two different questions there, but unravel that as you will.
I think, for whatever my advice is worth, I think, tips for guitar players, musicians is I've always said, never treat it like a hobby. I think the minute you start, if you're passionate about something and you want to do something with your life, if you want to play music and make music your life, you can't look at it as a pastime or something you do when you're just bored. You really have to dedicate yourself to it, and lock yourself away and learn that craft, learn that trade. So that's a big thing. And then also find like-minded people. If you want to be in a band, find like-minded people that not only share the same interests musically, but also, you want to make sure that you have a strong bond between you and your band, because we've always said that we're friends first, band second, and that's what keeps us healthy and keeps us grounded, and there's no egos with us, and everybody's on the same page. Going back years and years ago, if I could give tips to myself when I first started, I guess it would probably be when I first started playing guitar to take it more serious, because when we got my first one, when I was probably in 3rd or 4th grade, I did the same thing a lot of people do. I picked it up, took some lessons, my fingers started hurting, and I gave up on it. I was like, man, this sucks, you know. But then I had to pick it up again, and my fingers had to get re-sore again, and I had to relearn things that I might have learned early on. And I wish I'd stuck with it for that when I first got it, you know, because I didn't get real more serious into it until probably 5 years after I got my first guitar, you know. So I think back, man, I could have, if I'd played it like I played it the second time, I probably missed out on a lot of things that I could be learning, or I could be a more experienced player by now. But that's probably what I would give myself, you know, because I was always dedicated, and I was always had a fire inside of me to do whatever I had to do to play music for my life and to tour and to write music. And so I never had that issue of being lazy with it. I was, you know, the opposite of that. I guess when I, you know, going back just to taking more time with the instrument when I first got it, probably.
Yeah, like when you look back at that kind of time, when you sort of your formative years of guitar playing and like music and just learning that kind of process, and then you obviously look forward now to the point where I know certainly I was looking at the places you're playing, and you're playing to like thousands of people. Do you think the way that you looked at, you know, obviously the dream back then when you started, when you were first figuring out music and that, when you're kind of playing these big shows that you are, and things like, you know, like the Albert Hall in the UK and stuff like that, does it feel the same way that you thought it was going to all those years ago when you started with the instrument?
Oh yeah, I mean, I want to think it probably feels even better, because it's just like, you know, such an amazing feeling to step on any stage. But when you step on legendary stages like that, like Albert Hall, it's really like, it's surreal, and then it's over and done with before you even know it, just like riding a roller coaster or something. And it's just, there's no way to describe what that feels like, you know. And especially like going back to 2020, when that was taken away from us, it was like, then you really got to realize how much you loved it, because you were being told you can't do it anymore for a while. So that's something, you know, we never take anything for granted. I especially try to take anything for granted. And I especially don't now. So it's just an amazing feeling being up on those stages, playing for those people, going, this is it. You know, it's almost like you can't even really realize that it's happening, you know. It's just this, you know, until maybe you get home and the tour's over with, and then you look back on photos and stuff and you're like, oh shit, we did that. You know, it's an incredible feeling.
What's your number one stage photo of you?
Stage photo?
Yeah, like your favorite photo that someone's got of you.
There's one that when we played at Download 2018 right before Guns N' Roses, it's like me on this catwalk in front of all these people. It's a super cool photo. And then I know there's one from Royal Albert Hall too, you know. Then there's a cool photo we did. We headlined Wembley in 2016, and this was after the show was over. A photographer came on stage, and I was wearing like my pajamas. I was going to the bus, and he got a picture of me on the stage, just to an empty Wembley with a bunch of cups and cans on the floor. And I was like, this is a pretty cool photo, you know, kind of like a before and after type thing.
Yeah, I would have been there's a good chance my face is in the photo, your Download photo.
Oh, cool.
Because the weather was so good. I remember it was
that. Beautiful.
Yeah, and I distinctly remember when I saw you, it was Guns N' Roses after you, wasn't it? Is that right?
Yes.
Yeah, and I distinctly remember there was a couple in front of me, and there was one girl she was quite short, so she obviously couldn't see so well. But then their solution was for like most of Guns N' Roses set for her to sit on his shoulders. So I'm just behind this girl, like I just cannot see a thing. And I was trying, there was no room, so I was trying to like, and there were a few people stood there like, we can't see anything. And someone actually tapped him on the shoulder and was like, can you guys stop, basically, so we can't see. Like there were a lot of people that couldn't see anything. And then I remember her feet were just dangling like on his back, or sort of behind his back, and I could just see two shoelaces next to each other. I was like, I could just tie them together and just push. That's awesome. That would fix my problems. But yeah, like when you're playing stages, you know, so things like Download, when I don't even know how many people are in that audience, you know, tens of thousands, like especially on the, you know, those later spots in the day. What's when you think about like what's next, you know, what sort of goals do you start setting once you start to tick off these massive kind of these massive kind of shows?
To just honestly to continue doing that, maybe one day headline that, and then, we always dream to do, we have no ceiling with us. So it's always like, we want to do the biggest and best things we can, so it's like, okay, we've achieved that. Now where can we go from here? Where can we take the band where's the next spot we can go to? And how do we get there? And sometimes you can get in your own head too much about those kind of things and get too caught up in it and not appreciate what you're doing in the current moment. But, it's always good to look ahead and go, let's be smart. How do we get there? How do we get to that Guns N' Roses spot? How do we get to this spot, that spot? And it's just keeping our nose to the grindstone and continuing to play music, because when we first played Download, we played early on in the day, in 2008, I believe, 7 or 8. We played early in the day, and then blah, blah, and we kept going back and back, and then we found ourselves direct support to Guns N' Roses. So it's like, you just keep going, and just keep writing music and keep, being honest and sincere with your fans. And I think one day, you'll get there.
Yeah. Do you find like it's easier to, once you kind of start to tick off some of these things, and I say tick off, it makes it sound quite almost like it's your to-do list or something, but is it easier then to pursue things like your personal goals when you feel like you've maybe made some success of the musical things? Because sometimes I find myself like in my day, I feel like if I've not done the musical things I want to do with my day, I sometimes struggle to excuse myself to then go and spend time on me, if that makes sense. Are you good at switching that off and going and just doing what you need to do with your day, like as a person?
Right. Sometimes it's good to do that. I've gotten frustrated before about trying to come up with a riff, trying to do this, trying to draw a new picture for a t-shirt. Then you just get frustrated, you're over it. And so it's good to take a step back from it and come back to it and go, okay, it's not as bad as I thought. You know what I mean? I found myself in that situation a lot of times where I'll create something, not like it, get mad, walk away, come back to it and go, okay, it's not terrible. It can be better, but it's not terrible. It's not like, because you get so much in your own head about it. So it's good to take a breather, and just go do life and then come back to it.
Have you ever written any ideas where you thought that's really not that great, but then it actually ends up being like a really cool song?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, a lot of times that's the way a lot of riffs are written. It's just like having a guitar, playing around on something and then going, oh, I was like, that was kind of cool. And then you record it on your phone and you go back to it and you're like, actually, no, that was pretty great. If the full band plays that'll be great. So you just never know, sometimes then you'll write a riff you think it's just the riff to end all riffs. And then you present it to the band and it's like, no, that's not very good. You're like, you're right. It's not very good. So you just never know, Yeah. Sometimes when I think something is great, it's not. Sometimes when I think something is bad, it's great.
Do you think when you were, you're talking about these, you're saying about not treating it like a hobby, like not sort of, in terms of your tips for success, I guess, if you're talking to young musicians or sort of up and coming musicians that really put in the time in. And, I was saying right at the beginning about how I felt like you had that kind of maybe business sense to you, or that sort of inclination to pursue your own things. Obviously a lot of small bands now, they like are their own business, they are their own marketing and their own your business department. They're doing it. How do you think you would have fared, or how do you think you would fare if from scratch, say no one knew who you were, you had to just start a new project? How do you think you would get on that with the way things are nowadays?
I think it's definitely easier now than when we first started our band, because when we first started our band was in 2001. And, we were to promote a show, you were drawing flyers and making copies and walking around passing them out, saying, please come see us. We didn't have, there was no Instagram, no Facebook, we were not even MySpace. I don't even know if you remember MySpace. That wasn't even it was just all word of mouth, so it's easier now, I think, to get discovered, thanks to so much social media out there. I mean, there's TikTok stars born every day, it seems like, and it's like, there's different ways to get, but because of that, the bad side of that is there's so much out there. So you really got to find a way to stand out, to stick out of the crowd somehow. If you haven't already established yourself, it's a big pool out there, and everybody's trying to come up and raise their hand and get attention. So that's the downside to it, is that everybody's doing it. But you can use it to your advantage for sure.
Yeah. And how do you think you sort of stand out? How do you find your own voice nowadays with so many people finding their voices? How do you kind of stand out above the rest?
I think as long as you just stick to what you want to do and not try to blend into some current fad, I think that's how you stand out across all time, because you'll be one of those bands that people can look back at and look at their catalog and go, this band's been pretty consistent. That they've stood out because they've been consistent. They haven't, tried to change their sound just to go with what's popular currently, And as far as rock and roll bands, putting on a great live show is a way to stand out. It's like when you're playing a festival, fans are seeing, tons of bands all day long. So how do you stand out in, a lineup like that? Well, you just got to come and bring your A game and leave them with a good taste in their mouth and leave them going, holy shit, that band might not have had as much pyro or this and this as the headlining band, but they got up there and gave it their all with what they had. I think that's the way to stand out.
I love it when you see a band where, like, even if there's not much going on the stage and that, or if they're just, if it's just like 3 or 4 of them, but they're just like completely true to what they want to be doing. I hate it when you see this kind of fake sort of like performance where you feel like, yeah, they're jumping around, but you're just like, I'm not buying it. Like, it doesn't look
right. It looks too put on.
Yeah. Have you ever along your career had points where you've been tempted to write, that song that might just fit in here, or you've been tempted to perform in a certain way because you might think it might bring you that success at a certain point? Or have you always been good at just hushing that and just doing what you do?
I think more so with our live performance, there's just no way of taming that, We were told one time, this was years ago, by a former record label employee at our old record label, not the one we're with now, but he was like, maybe if you all calm your stage show down, more people could get turned on to you, And I was like, we kicked him out of the dressing room. We were like, man, we're not listening to that. This is what we are on stage. We're not gonna. You couldn't put a ball and chain to my feet on stage. That's just the energy. That's how I relate to the live music that we're playing. You know what I mean? It's not put on. It's not like, okay, here we go. Let's do this move here. It's just the way I feel it. So yeah, that will never change. And even if we were told, I can't stand still. It's just it's impossible. Songwriting, sometimes you can be tempted to go, well, we change this or do this just like that. Then yeah, it can be tempting. But then again, does it come off genuine? Is the rest of our fans are they gonna buy into it? Probably not. So you just want to, the good thing about us though is we're influenced by so many different genres and styles of songwriting that anything we do write, differently than something previous of ours, it's all coming from a true spot,
Yeah, no, that makes total sense. I think I remember I've only ever dipped my toe into like the sort of speaking to like labels and management and that stuff with my band, with my old band, and I found it quite sort of intimidating how I remember one label guy in particular sort of really, the stuff they were proposing to us, they had big smiles on their face and like, yeah, we'll try this and this, and they were saying all the wrong things. They were saying all these things
right.
Like, that's not the kind of festival we'd want to play, or that's not the kind of music we want to write. And I can only imagine how, when you've got more money behind it and you've got like an established band, how difficult it must be to like fight off that corporate kind of interest. Seems you're fighting off corporations like left, right, and centre right. with your with the different things you're doing. But is it hard just to say no to them?
Sometimes, because it can be tempting, like I said. But then again, we've been fortunate enough to be doing it for a little while, so we just are very firm in believing on what we do, and we have a fan base, and of course we want to grow on that fan base, but not at the expense of selling ourselves short.
Yeah, of course. Well, I think we've covered quite a good range of stuff, and hopefully maybe a chance to talk about stuff above and beyond just like guitar tones.
Absolutely. I apologize again for the craziness at the beginning.
No, it's fine. Honestly, it adds some interest. Of like I said, I need a leaderboard of I need some listener just to go back through all the ones where I've had like different pets and make a leaderboard, because I'm pretty sure yours are high up there.
Thank you.
So it's my compliment for you, I guess.
Thank you.
So if you could ask a question for the next guest, that would set us up nicely. So you can be whatever you like. You can be inspirational or funny or anywhere in between.
Well, okay, we did speak about charities, and I love charities. So I'd ask the next guest, if they were to form their own charity in their name, what would it go towards?
Amazing, yeah. That's a very wholesome question. Awesome, yeah, okay. And also, if you've got an artist you think deserves some love, good to hear about them.
Like rock band or
anyone at all. Can be anyone you like that maybe deserves a bit more of a following than they've got.
Well, there's some friends of ours in a group called the Georgia Thunderbolts that are on the same label as us now. They just did a European tour with us last year. They're from Georgia, but they're great friends of ours, and they're putting out new music. So I do want people to go check them out. On another spectrum, this band is pretty big here in the U.S., but I've been listening to them a lot lately. They're called the Dirty Heads, and it's like a rock reggae thing. They're from California. So if you're into that kind of stuff, which I love, I highly recommend checking them out.
Awesome. And then if you wanna plug anything of your own, then feel free.
Yeah, well, of course, the Henry and Clark Foundation is online. Our apparel brand is called Surf Monster. The website is surfmonsterstore.com, but that's about to be different in the next month because we're going to announce the rebrand pretty soon. But I think that will still redirect to the new site. But that, and then the new Blackstone Cherry album coming out sometime this spring, summer.
Awesome. Thank you very much, man. It's been awesome.
Yeah, man. Thank you very much. I appreciate your time.